Hi, I'm the Rick in Rick Turns, and this is the second video where I make this knockout bar for my lathe. If you haven't seen the first video, I'd really recommend you go and take a look at it. I'm putting the link right here on the window. You'll also find the link in the notes below the video. So let's get started with today's work. We'll finish this up. Here is a 1 1/4 inch spade bit, and as you can see, it's considerably longer. It cuts considerably rougher, but the 5 1/2 inch point is right up to about here. So if I go right up to that point, then I'll be through the distance that I need to go. We are ready to go. All right, we are past 5 1/2 inches. All right, close your eyes. All right, as I mentioned, this is just a little bit too big to go in here. So what I'm going to do is use this and try and open it up, maybe a 1/16 of an inch. I'm at about 1400. That's good. Don't need to open it up, and it's a snug fit too. This is ready to be cut off. And I'm going to use a thin parting tool for this right here, which is my 5 1/2 inch point, I believe. Get this right on. Okay, so I'm just going to clear out some of the rough edges, and this piece is good enough for gluing. You can see it's not quite on center all the way down here, and that of course is from the long drill bit, but it's probably better than I expected. Now for the two end caps on the handle here, and here, I want to use a contrasting wood. So I've got a piece of walnut here. As you can see, I've already roughed it out, put it in the chuck, trued it up, and also trued up this edge right here. So it's going to make here and here, they need to be perfectly straight. And also I want to make just maybe 1/8 of an inch lip to fit inside here, just to make it easier to glue it up when I'm ready. All right, that's it. All right, let me see. Clean off this. And since this is a glue surface, I definitely want it perpendicular to the length. So, I need 3/4 of an inch. Okay, next one. Now this one I'm going to drill. Because remember, on the edge like this, the whole rod is going to go right through there. So we got to have a hole right in the middle of this one. I've got a 17/6" Forstner bit set up in there. I need to get the lathe running slower. That's around 400. And I'm going to go in, well, let me see, about an inch. Because I'm going to make it 3/4 of an inch, just like the other end cap. All right, I'm past an inch. So I'm going to mark this to 1/4 inch. I mean 3/4 of an inch. And crank the speed back up. That's perfect. Okay. All right, just about coming through. Good. Once again, I'm going to finish off that rough edge over on the belt sander. Now I've temporarily put this piece kind of loosely in my chuck here because I'm just going to put some glue on it. Then I'm going to bring the tailstock up and use that to clamp it up. Since it's got a rounded over end, that's about the easiest way of doing it. And for this, just a matter of spreading some glue around on the joint right there. And I'm just going to use the tailstock quill just to put pressure on it. That's good right there. Just like that. This is the way it goes together. It's got about a 2-inch travel there. This is going to go right down here. This is my 1-inch bar. I've got it marked off for 3 inches right here. I've got a 4 1/4 inch, 1/16 inch cutting blade here in my angle grinder. Just going to cut through that. Here's a piece of metal I just cut off. And I'm going to mount it in this. It's a Nova G3 chuck. It doesn't really matter which end I use because squareness is not an issue, roughness is not an issue. All I'm going to be doing here is drilling a hole into it so that I can put the 3/8 inch ramrod directly into the hole. I could tap this and I could put a thread on the rod, but I don't think it needs that kind of strength. When I get to it, after I've got the hole drilled, I'll put the rod in there with epoxy and that'll be it. First thing I'm going to do is use a centering bit to put a hole right in the center. And this is just a starter hole. It just makes it a lot easier to get the larger bit going in. And we're right up at the camper right there. Now I'm going to remove the centering bit and put in the full-size 3/8 inch metal cutting bit. Here we go. We're at the 1-inch mark. That is 1.5. So what I'm going to do is mix up a little bit of epoxy and it really doesn't take very much, as you can see. If you recall, I drilled that hole right there about 1.5 inches deep. And stir that up real good. All right, and then I'm going to kind of get it around in there. Now this goes on for about 1.5 inches, as you know. And that is just going to sit there and set up. This is the way it goes together. It's got about a 2-inch travel there. This is going to go right down here. Just like I did before. Spread it on here. Spread it on here. Now I'm going to just slip this in here. I'm going to put this on here and put it in place. Once again, it's loose in the chuck. But right now all I want to do is apply pressure to the joint. So I've got a little squeeze out, but not much. And appears to be a pretty good fit all the way around. Yep, it's matching up. So that gets a 30-minute cure time before I do anything else on it. Okay, the glue is set. Fortunately, I didn't glue the rod in place. That would have been embarrassing. What I'm going to do now, I'm just going to leave the tailstock here to support the rod, and I'm going to tighten down the chuck here. And I'm just going to clean up this end with a skew. Okay, it looks good, and just a little bit of sanding. Okay, that's a good enough sanding. So there we have it all sanded and everything. So let's take a look at the length of the rod here. How long do we want to make it? I think this is about a 2-foot piece that I put in here. And you can see it's plenty long enough. So let's just put a drive center in there, and I'm going to move this forward until I just touch the drive center. So this is the amount of free space that I've got. I'm going to take the drive center out, move that in. That's really about what I want, I think. Something like that. I'm just going to make a mark on this end where it comes through the headstock spindle right there. Now that's not where I'm going to cut. And the reason that's not where I'm going to cut is you've also got this length right here. I'm going to subtract that 2 inches from my mark here. Now remember, this is the mark to the front of the spindle right there. I'm going to back it up 2 inches so it will be the mark to the back of the drive center right there. When you make these measurements, be sure you do it with the handle all the way forward, not in the reverse position. So that's where I'm going to cut that. I've measured, compared it to the lathe, made some adjustments. If I cut it too short, I'm really screwed. Okay, it's about an hour later, and I'm almost done. Maybe. And here we are. Cut piece smoothed over some. Gonna put a drive center in here. It's gonna be really embarrassing if this is too short. Ah, contact. All right. It comes to right about there, I can feel. So, you'd think we were done, right? Not quite. Now on the very tip of the bar, I want to put a piece of brass. And we can do this several ways. On the prototype that I made, I drilled a hole in here and tapped it and put in a brass bolt with a rounded head. But there's actually an easier way, which is this piece right here. This I got at Home Depot. It is a brass flare cap, 1/4 inch FL. I'm not sure what the FL stands for, but it's a 3/8 inch opening here, fits over there. A little looser than I would want, but there are various ways to tighten that up, one being epoxy. Now, the nut edges on here are just a little bit too large. It won't go through the hole in the end of the headstock spindle. So I'm going to take this, put it on my lathe, clamp it in a chuck, and I'm going to turn away those little pieces right there. Now, brass is not as hard as steel. It'll cut easily with wood turning tools. And if you've got a carbide tip wood turning tool, it'll cut even easier than that. There's not a whole lot of a lip to hold on to here, but there is just enough. So I'm going to tighten it down right on the edge there. I've got the lathe set at the lowest speed on this, and I don't know what it is. I think the name for that is noisy. I do have the carbide tip blade, which I'm going to use for this, but I have turned brass before with just regular scrapers is what I used. All right, it's getting there. That's looking pretty good. Well, the battery has gone out in my microphone, so I'm going to have to do a little bit of voiceover for this short segment. Now, I've mixed up only a small amount of epoxy here. It doesn't take much. I'm just going to put it inside the cap and then tap it down onto the rod. We're done. The new knockout bar is complete. I've even got finish on it now. It's a fairly simple project to make, even though the video might make it look longer. You can do the whole thing in a couple hours, I feel fairly sure. Especially after you've done 3 or 4 of them. So, hope you enjoy making it if you decide to do that. See you next video.